I almost screamed with shock, looking for the nearest door to escape through before it closed on me. Only the light pouring through the windows kept my mind intact to remain still by reminding me that I was still above ground. I should have known. Coming upstairs like this would set off the pitbug's height detection mechanism. I could do fancy terms, too.
Beep!
Huh. Seems that thing's elevation and geographical positioning sensor is going off again. Oh, come on. Couldn't I be the fanciest speaker for once? Glimmer smiled, stopping us by the doorway leading back downstairs. Better to let Sundial say his piece when we were still relatively safe.
Beep! Hey, this is Sundial. And this is Sky Dancer!
My eyebrows shot up. A young mare's voice breaking through the speakers was not what I had come to expect. Wasn't this just meant to be me and Sundial's thing? All the same, she sounded nice, light-spoken, and joyful.
Yeah, Sky Dancer's staying over tonight and, well, you just wouldn't let me be to do this on my own, would you? Not a chance! Have you told that thing about us then? About what? That we're a thing, silly! What kind of buck doesn't tell his diary that he got a mare friend a few days ago? Oh, I did! On the last one, honest. Sure. I did. I'll replay it afterwards and prove it to you. Fine. I'll believe you this time. Well, you go chat to your Pippi thingy and I'll be back once I've changed. Thanks.
There was a brief pause. I felt a little warm in the face. Their interactions and simple fun was heartwarming to hear after such a series of harsh events and the darker memories of the stable.
Well, what can I say that she doesn't portray herself? I still can't believe my luck. Who would have thought that one little chance meeting would lead to this after just a few weeks? My pops says to be careful, not to get too ahead of myself. But he was always a bit of a cranky old stallion. Sky Dancer is amazing. Honestly, it almost makes it bearable. All the problems these days, knowing she's there to meet up with every few days when her job brings her back to Philadelphia. 'Cause, honestly, things are getting a bit darker. We had a drill the other day to get to the stable in time. Every pony thought it was the real thing. 3 ponies. Well, the crowds were running mad and they'll get better, but...
I understood panic and terror better than most ponies. My heart went out to how they must have felt then.
That aside, they've got us in some pretty secret stuff down at the Wartime Ministry. Some new armor we're designing in tandem with the arcane lot. Only reason I tell you here is, well, not like this thing comes off very often, but it's amazing technology. Really incredible to work with. It worries me, though. Escalation keeps happening. There are reports that zebras are using dragons now. How long before some pony sets the bigger things in motion?
Another silence. I could hear him shuffling about, and a door clicking shut.
I can't let her hear this, but I'm setting aside most of my income to try and get her a ticket into the stable, too. Just in case, you know? But at this rate, it'll take me a year. If the prices don't go up again. Since my dad got one for me, they've doubled. I need more income. I don't know how, but I know I want to manage. For her, if anything, so I feel safe with her. That drill took me away from her. I can't have that happen for real. How would it feel to leave some pony behind? To escape into safety and know they're still out there? I've started looking out what I can sell, and I even enlisted in the Philadelphia Night Watch, but it's still not enough to catch up right now. I'm just a normal buck. How can I get the funds to...
He stopped. I heard trotting in the background.
Still talking? Yeah, sorry I tend to ramble into this thing. Well, don't take too long. If I wanted to hear you talking about yourself, I'd listen to you in bed.
Glimmer exploded in laughter, covering her mouth with her hooves, falling backwards. I held the pitbuck with an open mouth and my cheeks red.
Oh, I'm joking, you silly thing. Come here.
There was a soft sound, like a quick, short suck. Was that a kiss? Then there was another, and, well, Another.
Sky, I need to turn off the...
He cut off after a short giggle. Some fumbling sounds mixed with muffled chuckles later, and the sound ceased. Glimmerlight was still snorting on the floor, almost spasming. Clearly that type of joke was right up her street. I just felt embarrassed for Sundial. "Oh, that's so cute!" Glimmerlight finally regained the power of speech, lying on her back. For a second, I could almost forget we were in the middle of a death-defying escape from the harshest slave pits in the wastes. "We better get going. Let's go." She stood, fighting giggles while we trotted toward the stairs. I kept glancing at my pitbuck all the way. That single piece of scrap metal containing such memories. My mind kept flicking through the happy banter, through the relaxed and casual ease with which they enjoyed each other, the caring, such a level I'd never heard before, a different sort to the friends I knew. In fact, it seemed closest to the mare, but still different. To have a special sun pony. I wish I knew what that felt like. Our route took us through the staff offices to a fire escape at the back. We'd spotted a fallen chimney that had bridged between the station and the building directly next to it, and quickly decided it would be best to cross it, avoiding the street level entirely. Inside the offices, I carefully listened. Nothing. Silent enough to risk talking. "Glimmer, can I ask you, something?" "Sure, Murky." Her head was scanning around each corner and office in the gray corridor. Musky dust fell from the cracked ceilings while we trotted through, slowly drifting in air currents that almost unnoticeably weaved their way through the ruined station. How do you make some pony like you?" My voice felt squeaky and pathetic, but I forced the line out. Like that. Got some pony in mind?" She grinned down at me, clearly knowing the answer. "Perhaps you know where she dwells?" My cheeks flushed, looking away quickly. Was I that obvious? Well, she had seen my journal. Oh dear, embarrassment time. "Don't worry about it, Murky. When it happens. Just be your charming usual self. I think you'd be surprised how many mares want a buck who isn't in their face all the time talking their ears off." I bit my lip. What if I had, some pony in mind that I didn't really know too well? Glimmerlight paused. I knew how ridiculous what I was thinking was, but she just reached out and ruffled my mane again. "Don't think too hard on it. Nothing wrong with a sweet little crush to dream about in lonely times. I'm sure there's a mare waiting out there for you. That is, if you still don't consider bucks a likely route." My flustered response of incomprehensible jabbering was met only with a sly grin from her, before I shut up entirely, and not because of embarrassment. My ears twitched. A stomping metallic noise had entered the train station ground floor, unmistakable. Seconds later, voices, audible only to me, drifted up.
"EFS spotted 2 signatures inside this building up high. Likely red-eye observers, Star Paladin."
"Engage and negate. If we clear them, we clear a route out toward the bank. Hopefully. It's still a ways out."
The stomping began moving forward again, faster. They were trying to be quiet. Perhaps to others they may have been. But to me it was like someone sticking my head inside a bell. Motioning to Glimmer, we quickly cantered downstairs, aiming to reach the room with the fallen chimney before they caught up. Heavy power armor likely couldn't follow us over such a rickety makeshift bridge. Glimmerlight whispered to me, "Rangers?" I nodded, and she just shook her head. "Then don't worry about sound, Murky. Just go for it. They know where we are with those suits." I still tried to set us a pace that made it look like we were just moving fast and not galloping away. Just because they knew where we were didn't mean they knew I'd heard them. On our way, much to my amazement, the ticket robot had followed us, as though aiming to get up to the VIP lounge to ask us again.
"Tickets, please."
We galloped around it, hearing the machine methodically and patiently begin turning once again to follow us once more. Potentially the most determined ticket collector in history. One floor above the rangers' heads, we quickly knocked aside the fractured wooden door and moved inside the office where the chimney's broken top was located. A blast of wind whipped at my mane, flowing in through the colossal hole of the brickwork wall. The brickwork chimney had collided through it, scattering tiny red shards of brick everywhere and smashing the room asunder. Jammed horizontally, it acted as a small gap between the housing next door. Being only 10 feet wide, it didn't seem so bad. Yet, the moment my hoof touched it, the chimney lurched and a few bricks dropped from it. All right, pretty bad. Didn't think you had a problem with heights. Glimmer stepped up onto it, carefully shifting her way out. I followed, trying to take comfort in the thought that if the balefire hadn't brought it completely down, my own tiny weight wouldn't. I don't mind heights. I do mind feeling like I'll fall. Concentrating while we shifted across, carefully judging every balance, I listened behind us.
Targets are due east, moving slowly.
Moving between buildings. Damn. Must be that chimney we spotted outside. Circle around back downstairs.
Breathing a sigh of relief that we had bought ourselves some time, I hopped the last few feet, taking Glimmer's hoof. In one horrifying moment, my hoof skiffed off the edge of the wall, prompting an ever-increasing crumbling sound. Glimmer gasped, yanking me forward. Get off of it! We dove further into the strangely identical office within the opposite building. Had they copied one another through the windows? And ducked behind a desk. Behind us, the crumbling turned to a cracking, grinding sound and stopped. 10 seconds or so later, popping our heads back above the desk to look back, the chimney was still in place, albeit a few inches lower on this side. Very hesitantly, we chuckled out of sheer relief.
Tickets, please.
My chuckle slowly died and quieted. Twisting to look, I saw the 4-legged ticket robot begin trundling out onto the chimney in its endless quest to acquire non-existent tickets from the first passengers in centuries. Then the chimney collapsed. It grew from a smattering of grinding stone, the entire support curving to the side, and then giving way to an avalanche. The roar of 1,000 bricks slamming into the ground at different times, echoing across the block. So much weight dropping tore the creaky walls from both buildings completely apart. In a moment of horror, I felt the floor beneath us dropping out, tilting with cracks forming like forked lightning toward us. We turned, but there was no chance. The entire floor gave way, dropping us to slide down it toward the gap where the makeshift bridge had fallen. Screaming, sliding down toward the hole, I found myself flung out into the air. The wreck of the chimney below shortened the drop, but not by much. The impact on my 4 hooves felt like I'd fallen a mile, even dropping and rolling the moment I hit a thankfully flat section of fallen wall. I yelped in pain and rolled down the rest of the pile, end over end, before crumbling into a heap amongst the rubble in the alleyway with a bone-jarring impact. Bricks rained down around me, pinging and sending small fragments everywhere like shrapnel. Glimmerlight had somehow kept her feet beneath her, landing and rolling in a more controlled manner before being pitched to the side by a brick striking her on the back like a hammer. I heard her yell out. The dust cloud kicked up blew out both sides of the train station's back alley. Murky, you there?
Tickets, please.
Not you! Murky! Yes. The robot was half buried beside me, damaged and sparking as it futilely strove to move. I felt Glimmer pulling me up, dragging me desperately away. The train station's wall collapsed where we had lain. A boxy machine with a screen fell from the station's room, exploding as it hit the ground and blasting an entire stockpile of old tickets across the entire area like confetti. Screeching filled the skies. Steel Rangers pounded on the ground toward the noise, and all manner of shouting went up from nearby. Murky, run! Clearly, my ears had been somewhat wrong. I'd only heard the noisy hunters, but we were more surrounded than I'd ever thought. The griffins must have lain silent on the clouds or rooftops just waiting for us, using their patrols to trick us into thinking it was clear. Galloping as best we could, we ran out into the street, taking the quickest route toward the cover of more housing while the sky slowly filled with griffins. Behind us, 10,000 tickets fluttered slowly to the ground, resting all over the wreckage and burying everything in a sea of white paper.
Thank you.